When I started out, it was like, all right, how do we make 100 grand? How do we make 200 grand? Once I did that, then it was like, okay, how do we shoot for the millions? Once I did that, then it's like, all right, we don't even know what we want anymore because we didn't even think we were going to be here in the first place.
Welcome everyone to the Words of Wisdom podcast. We are back once again. We're still here in Miami and we're still the #1 trading podcast in the world, the fastest growing thanks to all of you and our incredible guests. Talking of which, we have an absolute legend with us today. We've been in talks for a while. We finally made it happen here in Miami. And that is the one and only Sang Lucci.
What's going on, man?
It's an absolute pleasure to have you, man. How are you?
Thanks for inviting me, man. I'm well, man. Fresh off a trip from Colombia and here in Miami to do this podcast with Riz.
I appreciate it. I really do.
You kind of lucked out with the name there, man. Riz. Now all the kids are saying this stuff.
It's really weird, actually. Yeah, it's fortunate and unfortunate because the funny thing is, I don't have any Riz, even though my nickname's Riz. So it doesn't work out too well. It works out and it doesn't at the same time.
My daughter and all her friends, my daughter's 18, she uses that word. I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about? Riz. And then somebody told me it was short for charisma. And then I was like, okay. Now this makes,
I didn't know that.
Now this makes sense. So you got all the Riz, my friend, with the Riz podcast.
I know. I think just in the podcast, that's all I've got it for. And that's it. But, outside in life, completely mute. But Sang, well, I don't know how to, what was it, Sang Lucci?
Sang Lucci, yeah. So my real name is Anand Sanghvi, and born in India. And I took half of my last name, Sanghvi, and I joined it with a phrase that's commonly referred to as money in, I guess, back in the days. And the reference was Lucci. So the song, it was a 90s hip hop song called Lucchini. And the chorus went, Lucchini falling from the skies, let's get rich, what? And I took the Lucci and put it on there. And
it works. It works.
Yeah, man.
You know, I love it. Everyone loves the origin story. You know?
Of course. You got the Riz, I got the Lucci.
That's it. And talking of origin story, we just take it very briefly. I know a lot of people do know your story, but for just those who don't,
sure.
We could just take it back there because you've been trading. Most people who come on the podcast and most people we sort of see online on social media, a lot of the time they've been trading either during COVID or just before that.
I noticed, a lot of your guests are younger. They're a lot younger. I started trading in 2006.
Wow.
You know, and coming out of college, I had a financial background. I had a job as a financial analyst at a medical company. They sold dialysis machines, and I was just doing staff accounting and financial reporting, and it was horrible. I hated it so much. I just had my daughter, and I kind of settled into that comfortable 9-to-5 life where you go to work, you sit in traffic for 2 hours, you go to the gym, you make dinner, and that's it. That's it. Play with the kid, of course, and that's it. That's the end of your day. And it was cool, I guess, for a while, and I got so bored. And I've always been an entrepreneur of sorts. I had a painting business in school. I was selling concert tickets as well, so I was flipping a lot of concert tickets and PlayStation 3s, whatever I could get my hands on that had a secondary market to it. I was always into that and stumbled upon the stock market after just looking online at what was then called proprietary trading firms, the real proprietary trading firms, not what they call these days, and I'll explain the difference. Proprietary trading firm is where basically you bring some of your own money, let's say it's a couple of grand, $5,000, and that's your buy-in, and the firm gives you access to technology, they give you education, they tell you how to trade, they teach you how to trade, and then, they start you off slowly, but you're trading real money. You're trading real money. And if you take a hit and you take an L, you lose more than what you put in, they'll stomach it for you, and they'll make money off of commissions and desk fees and things like that. Now, fast forward to today, you can't make money off commissions. Commissions are going to freaking zero. So that business just didn't work anymore. Plus, nobody's making any money anyway, so there's no percentage you can take off of, there was only a couple of good traders. 2007, they had what was called the uptick rule. and they got rid of the uptick rule. So basically what that is you can only short a stock on the uptick. So let's say Apple is trading $160, and you could only get short at $160.01. So somebody had to buy you out. You can't just hit a bid and go short just like you can today. So the firm was predominantly short-based traders. 2007, they got rid of the uptick rule and nobody knew how to go long. 2008, market crashes and nobody in that office survived. I was one of the only survivors. I made a bunch of money shorting the market in 2008. And, 2009, my father and I went on a pretty big run. My father, astute engineer, as most Indians are, he lost a good amount of his money in 2008. And luckily, I was coming into a world where I could finally understand it. I was trading for about a year and a half, and I took some of his money, took my money, and we did pretty well. So that was kind of my origin story, so to speak.
That's incredible. And what gave you the foresight or the insight for the 2008 sort of trades? Because a lot of people obviously got completely wiped out at that time.
Well, look at it this way: the owners of my firm. They were buying Bear Stearns on the way down. They were buying J.P. Morgan. They were buying everything on the way down. They couldn't believe it. And if fast forward to today, and I'll make an interesting reference to it. When you're stuck with decades of programming, of how markets work and how they should work and what you have seen in the past, you can't see something new for what it is. You're always going to go on the contrary. And because you can't believe it, Bear Stearns was trading at $160 one day. The next day it opened up at $80. It closed at $50. The next day it opened up at $2. It opened up at $2. And you're talking about the wealth of the world here, stuck in that one stock and a couple of different stocks. The owners of my firm, they were buying it all the way down. We were expecting to come into work the next day, and doors locked. Doors locked, couldn't get in.
Really?
And they told everybody on the way down, while this shit was happening, they told everybody on the way down that, don't worry, we're fine, nothing's going to happen. And
so literally overnight.
Came in overnight. Literally a couple days later, couldn't come in.
And so did you just have a sense or like a feeling that it was something different?
Yeah. I learned my path. My path is panic. When I see panic, I can read it really well. It's very simple to read on the tape. When you're looking at buyers and sellers on the tape, this is how I analyze the markets. I just look at tape. I look at level 2. It's just panic. You can feel it. You can read it. It's easy. Everybody, no matter what, if there's any bid to get out on, somebody's going to smoke it because there's so much fear. They have to get out. And if you can't get out now, the market's going to close. There's no way, that palpable fear that you can catalog. It's kind of like what's happening on the other side right now with semiconductor stocks like SMCI, NVIDIA, AMD. I don't know if any of you guys are trading these things, but that's what's happening right now. And guys like me who, let's just say we make our money during the bear markets, all that talk for this year as well as the last year about the economy doing horrible and us going into a recession and this inflation being a horrible problem and commercial real estate, there's no offices open anymore. We're over here waiting for the shoe to drop and waiting for all this to collapse. Meanwhile, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Inflation's going to the moon. I don't know if you guys have been to Miami. I went to eat at Cote last night. The steakhouse. It was a $900,000 meal for 2 people. For 2 people. I come back from Colombia, by the way. Colombia, you get the same meal, the same quality meal for like $150 over there in Colombia. But again, inflation is a real thing. Nobody gives a shit, and everybody's buying AI stocks, and everybody's buying semiconductors. Like this stuff never happened, and it's all good. Everything's fine. So the same thing can happen on the converse, where a guy like myself who has decades of experience can be stuck on the wrong side, hoping for something to happen and trying to understand a market that he can't understand.
Definitely.
So same thing can happen. So that bias sets in depending on what you think you know about the market.
Do you feel like because of all these issues that we're seeing and really something else should be happening and we're seeing the complete opposite,
100%.
do you feel like it's just when the penny does drop,
but
it
see,
drops big?
Again, now we're talking about a timing thing. And now, as every trader knows, this is the most important piece of any trading strategy, of any trading analysis or whatever. Everything is about timing. You might be right, But if you're 3 years too early, nobody gives a shit, and you lost all your money trying to shoot for it, or you can't stay solvent. It's like the what was the show, the Michael Burry one, the movie, The Big Short?
The Big Short, yeah.
So the whole thing was they were short well before the shoe dropped, but they couldn't stay solvent because the cost of holding that short sucked up all their money. And when the actual move did happen, they didn't make any money. Those things can happen. So timing becomes the only factor. But now, look at it this way. If you're waiting for a shoe to drop and it never happens, and you're a trader, meanwhile, there's other opportunities that you could be making money on, and you're sitting on the sidelines just twiddling your thumbs and 3 years goes by, and you're like, well, what the hell do I have to show for it kind of thing. So that's how you kind of have to be as a trader. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to step outside of what you think you know or what you think is working or should work, to be able to see what's happening as it really is, right? Most people project what they want on a market that doesn't give a shit about, markets don't give a shit about what you think. Mm-hmm. It's about what is, it's about the tape, it's about who's buying and who's selling, and that's it. Once you overlay your wants and desires, you're screwed, man.
Definitely. And you mentioned, you put out a tweet in December, which absolutely went out to almost 1 million people.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And, you were sharing something that most traders just don't share. They don't want to be as open, I guess. I don't know why. Maybe most traders don't share that. But you mentioned about losing a 7-figure account.
Oh, yeah.
And what was the process of that? What was the sort of recovery of that, if you will?
Okay. Well, let me ask you something. You talk to a lot of traders. Yeah. What do you think, after doing all these podcasts, what do you think about why people don't show their losses or don't talk about their losses? Still in a game that is based off of P&L, gains, wins, and losses. What do you think it is? I'm interested to hear what
I would imagine that a lot of the time, as I was saying in terms of the social media space, a lot of people have been trading over the, let's say, mainly on the social media scene once it's been a big thing.
Sure.
And therefore they have an image to protect, if that makes sense. Or there's this idea that traders have to be perfect, or the good traders are perfect traders. Yeah. And therefore that does, the real bad thing about that is that then seeps into all the new traders. That's what they think. They think that that's what trading is. And therefore they always go on this journey of searching for perfection, that there's a strategy that exists out there that is perfect, that allows you to read the market like a book. So when you look at it, you go, oh, it's going to go long, then short, then long. And I think that's what it is. I think it's just the guise of marketing and the guise of perfectionism, and that if you lose, you're not a good trader.
Sure.
And therefore, there is very few traders I have interviewed who share those. And the interesting thing is, I would say in Forex, it's a really big issue. While when I do speak to a lot more options traders, they've been showing their P&Ls, and maybe not all of them, but there's a couple that I have interviewed, they're very more vocal about their losses and showing their P&L statements, versus in the FX side that I come from, it seems to be very much a very not talked about subject, and not really any losses or very few losses being shown.
Let's take a break for a minute there, guys, because I want to tell you about the best trading tool on the market, TradeZeller. The reason why TradeZeller is the #1 trading tool that every trader needs is because you can do backtesting, automated journaling, trade replay, in-depth analytics, and so much more. And the greatest part about TradeZeller is that it's all automated. All you have to do is connect your MT4 and MT5. It will pull all your data onto the dashboard. You can add playbooks, you can just add notes, you can add images from your trades, and you can get the insights that is necessary for you to progress as a trader. Now, TradeZeller is for absolutely everyone. Whether you're a crypto trader, whether you're a Forex trader, whether you trade prop firms, it is for absolutely everyone. And that is why thousands of traders have signed up using my link here through the podcast. Make sure you use the code RIZ10 for 10% off your monthly subscription, or WOR for 20% off your yearly subscription. The link is in the description below. And let's get back to the episode.
Remember, you got to sell stuff. And remember, I've been in this world for a long time. And I know the back ends of every brokerage. I know who's behind them. I know the guys behind them. And it's a small community. When you talk about high-level finance, you're talking about Chicago, you're talking about New York, and you're talking about London, and a couple other places. But beyond that, everybody knows each other. this whole funded simulation thing, this simulation funded account, I don't even know what the hell you call them here at this point. There's so many different names and there's so many different platforms for them. I know the guys that are behind it, and I know the why, because if you came from a prop firm background where you're funding actual traders with your actual money, think about the risk that you're putting up, right? It's like, and think about the numbers. I know all the guys that are behind the funded simulation accounts, the top step traders of the world, the what are some of the other big ones? The FTMOs, the you name it, funded trader I don't know, all these different ones, true forex funds. All the guys that are behind this stuff are the same guys that were behind the prop firms that existed before. Mm-hmm. And now look at the model. You don't have to put up your own risk capital. You know from data perspective from years ago, 95% of those traders do not make any money. So you're making $100 or $200 every single month off every single one of these traders to try when they're trying to get a funded account. Even when the 5% that try to get a funded account or achieve a funded account, they don't actually get a payout. They continue to roll profits because they want to make more until they eventually blow out. And then the small 1% that actually do, there's enough cash sitting around here so you can pay these people out. And now they're getting even smarter on when they pay people out. So sometimes they'll block accounts if you're making too much money. There's all kinds of stuff going on here. So basically all we're talking about now is pure math. This is all pure math now that is happening here behind the scenes of these things. So when it comes to losses, I know for a fact from the broker side of it, and the brokers know everything. They have all the data here. I know all the brokers, and they tell me the same thing. Like, we see people blowing out every single day. But then you go on Instagram, and everybody's doing amazing. Everybody's doing amazing. And the desire to join somebody's room or join somebody's Discord or join somebody's course because you think they have the golden nugget, so to speak, has never been more high than I've seen it. It's in record what is happening right now. And the volumes for every single trading product is going through the roof. Yeah. Gambling, online gambling and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen DraftKings or some of these other stocks here. It's through the roof here. And the Super Bowl, with the amount of bets here that came in for the Super Bowl, same thing. So this level of activity for trading, short-term trading, and for gambling and all that kind of stuff, it's at all-time highs. And you go on Instagram, everybody's making money. Mm-hmm. But the brokers from the real side of it that are behind all those platforms, they'll tell you right now, everybody's losing money, So it's kind of interesting.
It's kind of interesting. I think would you say from your experience, because again, most traders coming into the market, I started trading in 2016.
Sure.
And I think that's, for the social media side of things, that's like sort of on the higher end, a lot more people coming in during COVID,
sure.
just post.
Sure.
So we haven't seen maybe the changes. Has that always been the case? Have people always been that way, or has that been something?
It's always been the case. 100%. It's always been the case. And I don't want to dodge your question here. I came out publicly and said, I blew out a several seven-figure account, and you know what I was trying to do? I was trying to short. I was trying to short every step of the way because I couldn't understand. I couldn't accept the valuations for some of these companies. I couldn't accept what was going on here. I wanted to project what I felt like should be happening. And you get so heavy into an emotion or a bias, sometimes you can't see what's happening until it's a little bit too late. And once it's too late, now there's a whole new set of emotions to deal with because now you got losses to make back. Now you want to make back losses, right? Now there's the emotions to making back losses means you'll push the line even more just to make back a loss. So you might take an extra risk or things like that. And remember, you're still not reading the market in the correct state of mind. So it doesn't matter how good you get, how many millions of dollars you get or make, you're always at risk of yourself at some point in time because of the things that you have going on in your life. Maybe you need the money for X, Y, and Z at that moment in time. I meet so many traders that are going through a divorce, and those periods are the worst times in their trading, history. Or they got a business that's folding, and they need to survive. Or they need to survive somehow, so they take a little bit more risk on the trading side. You're no longer reading the market at that point. You're just hoping. You're really just hoping, and you come to the market with that kind of mindset subconsciously. You think you're going there to read shit. Maybe you can for a little bit, but you'll lose yourself in the bias at some moment in time. So that's what happened to me, man. And because of when things are going well for me, I tend to add the weight of the world on my shoulders in the sense of, starting new businesses and things like that and going for more and going for more and going for more. I have a story of this one guy who started in the pits out in Chicago. And he was an amazing trader, man. And I watched him go from 0 to 80 million to 0 to 80 million to 0 to 80 million like 3 or 4 times. And his father finally came into the equation and was like, all right, every time you make 20 million or 30 million or something, we're going to take 10 out and we're just going to buy some real estate. And eventually this guy ended up making $1 billion trading. Wow. Just trading, When you think about this, like, can you make $1 billion trading? Yes, 100%. You can see it on the screens every single freaking day. You see what's happening in a lot of these big picture moves that happen in the markets. For example, the semiconductor industry right now. People have made a significant amount of money trading NVIDIAs and the AI stocks of the world. At some point, it's going to be a great short, and you're going to see the same amount of money being made on the short side as well. I say all that to say that the emotions, it doesn't matter what level of the game you are, whether you're $100 trading or $1,000 trading or you're at 100 million, the same thing happens. You're always at risk. You're always at the most risk to yourself. You were the reason, why, these things happen at those moments. And of course, and depending on what you have going on in your life, depending on what your wants and desires are, we often tend to dump that on a market that doesn't give a shit. So most of the time we want more. Like I said, you're trying to make back losses and things like that, and that gets you into a little bit of trouble. So that's what happened to me, and it's no different than any other trader. So the process to get back, what that looks like is you have to let it go first. You have to accept what happened. You have to. There's no other choice. Because if you come to the market with that weight on your shoulders and that shame, so to speak, and that, the weakness, because that's what we're talking about, these emotions and these feelings that you have about yourself. If you come to the market with that, market's gonna steamroll you all day, So there's a level of confidence that you need, but you can't get that confidence if you're still living in the past. Yeah. You can't get it, you can't find it, it ain't gonna happen. So you have to accept where you are, and that's a very difficult thing to do. It takes a good amount of time for a certain type of person. If you're a very mentally strong person, it might take a couple of weeks, If it takes you longer, you might be sitting in your house depressed for a couple of years. Maybe you have to go back to work a little bit to scrounge up some cash, and you got to do what you got to do. But the acceptance part is the toughest part. Once you accept it, then you are where you are. You start where you start. You start with whatever chips you have. If you still got chips and you got a chair, the game is still the game. Definitely.
And in terms of acceptance, is there like actual procedure or anything like that? Or is it more so just however long it takes to actually accept it?
This is a great question. It's a great question because it's difficult to answer, right? In the sense of everybody will say, okay, the discipline will solve the emotional problems, right? Because if you come to any game with the same discipline, without the emotion, so to speak, and you just do what you have to do, you should be okay. In trading, you could be disciplined. What does discipline look like in trading, right? Does it look like you're just showing up to work every day? Or does it look like you need to control the decisions that you make every single day? That's what the discipline should look like in trading, whereas you minimize the bad decisions and things like that. But how do you minimize the bad decisions if you're still stuck in the past? Subconsciously, you ain't going to do it. I don't care who you are, unless you're a robot and you got code here. It takes a while to figure out what subconsciously is moving the reason why you're making certain decisions. Mm-hmm. And you have to tackle that. And I think no matter what, that takes time. And it takes time, it takes pressure, and it's resistance. So you kind of keep having to push up on that wall of resistance until you get so fed up with yourself. It's almost like you hate yourself, because that's what it feels like sometimes. And then you start to make the incremental changes that you need to make every single day. It's not a switch all of a sudden that happens over a certain period of time. It's a constant pushing up on resistance, failing, and continuing to go until you slowly work out some of the bad habits that you've been, subconsciously programmed yourself to do for the last God knows how many years.
Definitely.
That takes time.
I could only imagine.
It takes time.
In terms of your career, one thing that I find interesting is a lot of traders, they have a mindset of trading forever.
Sure.
right? Their whole life, right? And that's very respectable. But in your career, have you seen, in terms of like numbers, for example, do the vast majority of traders come into the game? And even if they are profitable, they make profits, but then they sort of leave. And the ones who do trade for that very long period of time are actually far fewer and in between than what most people may think.
Much far fewer. You wouldn't believe it. But I mean, again, I've been in the game for 20 years. So what I see nowadays are guys who are my age, 40, 50. The ones who are still doing it that are that age and have been doing it for 30 years, you can't do anything else. You know this game so well. You know the inside and outs of this game so well that it's become a part of who you are. It's like coming up. It's like drinking coffee in the freaking morning. The first thing that you're going to do is take a look at what the gap ups and gap downs are, and and read some news and try to make a couple of plays. We're always going to think like this. A true trader is always going to think like a trader. And what does a trader think like? All we do is sit there and assess what's going on. I mean, here we are. We're at a podcast studio, which happens to be all over Miami and places in Dubai, where people pay to come here, do all these kinds of feeds, do all these kinds of content. Because right now, where can you turn a dollar into two? Digital content is where it's at. So now all of a sudden, we're here at a random studio in the middle of freaking Miami. I've never seen shit like this, but this is what it is. This is what it is, and this is a prominent business, and probably will be for the next 5 years. So all we do is we sit there and observe. We just observe. We observe and we try to figure out how to make some money off of it. That's it. That's all a trader does in reality. Could a trader run a successful business? Could a trader run several different companies? Could a trader start doing real estate? He can do all of that stuff because all he's doing is observing. That's it. So the evolution of a trader who's been trading for 10 years, 20 years, and continuing to extract profits, those are some of the greatest stories that you'll ever see, because they get into the most wildest businesses that you'd never believe in, you'd never even believe existed. And it's all funded by guys who are just like me and you, guys who just make 10 million, 20 million in the market and go fund other businesses. I've met so many guys my age that are now coming out of trading. They'll still trade a little bit, swing trading and things like that. But they've moved on to bigger businesses and running large businesses, and that's it. They say they're a lot more happier because they're not trading anymore. But again, running a business is very stressful as well. So traders create such a pain resistance. There's such a pain tolerance that we have. And I don't think this generation, and again, don't come at me on social media or whatever for saying this, but I don't think this generation has a lot of pain tolerance to begin with. And you're talking about guys who are hardened, man. These guys are hard guys that you can't make them angry. You can't mess with them. They'll come back always. These are the guys that will always come back because they're harder than any of you. So they're the ones that can really understand and push businesses and things like that. Even the NVIDIA CEO, after the earnings came out, everybody did an interview on him. I forget what his name is. Sheng Huang, I think it was his name, the NVIDIA CEO. Everybody's giving him this praise because they had the best quarter in the world. Stock goes to freaking 830. His stock goes up $100 in a day. And this guy's like, they asked him if you would do it again. If you would start this semiconductor business again, he was like, hell no. Hell no. It was 1,000,000 times harder than I ever thought it was.
I think I've seen that.
Nobody has a clue what you're in for until you're in it. And then once you're in it, you got no choice but to continue. And he's like, hell no, I wouldn't wish this on my biggest enemy. It's a hard thing that we're doing here.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I think I've seen that interview, and it was so interesting to see. And it's so interesting because people would assume that the mindset would be like, yes, I would do this 10 times more and 10 times bigger. Yeah.
And social media, by the way, it has you feeling and believing and thinking that way. And it's not the reality. It's not the reality of the situation. Social media uses that to sell you a product or to sell you a type of lifestyle or to sell you a way of thinking, that you can. And yes, you can. Nobody's saying you can't. So many things are possible because the human mind has said, yes, I can. That is the whole basis of our existence. We're able to wake up every single day and say, yo, I'm going to go do this shit, and you can't tell me shit. That's what we're supposed to come out here and do this because it's a gift. It's a gift that I'm here speaking to Riz right now. who has no Riz apparently, but he'll find some because, we have a choice to wake up every day and figure out what the hell we want to do. It's such a gift. It's such a gift and an opportunity. So even if you lose and you get knocked on your ass, who cares, man? And at the end of the day, you got another shot. So get your ass up and take the fucking shot, But it ain't easy.
100%. And what would you, in terms of those traders who are just stepping into the market now?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say to you, like, if you could go back, because that would be the same question.
Sure.
But for those traders coming in,
Sure.
what could you say to them in terms of what to expect? And to have a hopefully a long career like yourself?
Man, what would be great if we could see it, and we won't, because again, it's the nature of our humanness. And once you try to marry the world of trading with being human, then you start to understand like what this game really is. To the newer traders that are a lot of the guys that I've seen on your podcast who are having a good amount of success. Mm-hmm. What I'll see, especially here, we're in Miami, man. Last night I'm at the restaurant and then we go out after. And, you'll see guys dropping 10 grand, 20 grand, paying for their girl's apartment because the girl just wants to be on Instagram and all this kind of stuff. Like, that's normal now. That shit is normal, And you're a trader who's making a good amount of money. That's what you're going to do. You're going to come down to Miami. You're going to find a nice girl. You're going to live this kind of lifestyle. To live that lifestyle, you're talking about $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month overhead to live like some of these kids want to live, with a car, with this, with a great apartment. Some of these apartments here ridiculous. 2-bed, 2-bath. You're paying $7 grand, $8 grand, right? You might as well turn it into a damn studio and make some money off of it, right? So that's the lifestyle that you guys are looking for. Now, what's going to end up happening is you're on a nice streak. Maybe you're making some good money. At some point, because of the way the world works, this is the way we are. This is human beings. Shit goes up and shit goes down. When it's not there and you got all that overhead, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You can't see that coming, and you don't want to see it coming because you can't even believe it's going to come. Once you make it, and somebody tells you, hey, save some for a rainy day, you're looking at them like, what the fuck rainy day are you talking about? I'm young here. I'm 23. You can't tell me shit. 25, whatever the hell it is. When I was that age, you couldn't tell me a damn thing. I had to learn the hard way. So who am I to step in front of these kids and tell them, hey, save some for the rainy day. However, the best traders that I've seen, even the young ones, they have somebody behind them that are creating a system around them to be like, all right, you just hit $1 million, you just hit $2 million. You don't need the full $2 million to trade. You don't need the whole stack. But they'll say, okay, yeah, I need it because I want to make 10 million, I want to make 15 million, I want to make 20 million. If you continue to just park, take 250 out, take 300 out, obviously think about your taxes. Half the young folks, they won't even think about their taxes. You're in Miami, you're saving on taxes, what, 7%, 11% from where you were before. But I'm in Puerto Rico. I don't pay shit. I pay 0% capital gains. You guys have to think, if you don't think about this, you make $1 million, you live off of $20,000 a month. By the end of the year, you got to pay $400 in taxes. You ain't got shit to show for it. It's sad to say it like this because we're talking about $1 million. Anybody who makes $1 million, you have the potential to take that million and grow it slowly over time so that you never have to deal with shit. Have you seen The Gambler with Mark Wahlberg and I forget what the hell his name was, the big guy? He was talking about fuck you money, basically. You get up to the point where you make fuck you money, you go get the house, you go get this, so that any question anybody ever asks you in future in life, fuck you, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do this, right? So that's what I would say the most to any of the kids here that are listening and you guys have success. Remember, you guys are coming into a market where you don't have the same bias that I do. So you can take a look at NVIDIA and buy that shit and ride it up another 100 points tomorrow because it's probably going up another 100 points tomorrow. I can't do that. I'm waiting on this whole party to slow down, to stop, so I can short the hell out of it. You guys don't have the same bias that I do. So you can shoot with impunity kind of thing, and with the youthful confidence that you guys have. There's that blind faith that a lot of the kids have, that you have when you're 20 years old, 25 years old. You have blind faith in yourself. You don't give a shit about what anybody says. You're going to do what you're going to do, and you don't care about what anybody says. That blind faith is so powerful. It'll project you to some places that you didn't think you can go. Now, when you get there, there's another equation that's waiting for you on that side. Are you the one that's going to keep it and continue to roll? Or are you the one that is going to lose it and we're never going to hear from again? And the majority of folks is the latter. The ones who, you might make a couple of $1,000,000, but if you don't make the right decisions when you have it, remember, you're only going to have so many shots to take. Right? Because life is life. It's hard. It's hard to keep coming back and shooting after you get your ass kicked, right? Because you still have to get the confidence to get over that, to come back to the game, to do it again, and imagine having to do it again and again and again and again and again. At some point when you get older, you're fucking tired. You're tired. So you want to make smarter moves. And if ever you're sitting on $1,000,000, a couple of $1,000,000, right now there's so much opportunity where you could slowly work that over a period of 10 years into wealth, some serious wealth here, $20 million, $50 million, and you can do it over a slower period in time, being a little bit smarter. It's just, who's going to learn that lesson if they don't learn it themselves, kind of thing? You know what I mean?
No,
it's either you can see it coming or it hits you in the face.
Definitely. No, that's what I was actually going to ask and follow up on. Is like everyone's always searching for a hack to avoid pain, to avoid hardship.
Sure.
And do you think that is really the issue? Is that you just have to embrace it instead? And just hope to learn from it and hope to pick up on the things that are necessary to get that successful.
Beautiful thing about life. These are the only conversations that I've been having lately. And everybody, it's so easy to say that, hey, you fell on some hardships. It's okay. You're going to be back and all that kind of stuff. But to the individual mind, when he has to go home and he has to go to sleep at night, the man can't sleep, right? What is he going to do? He's going to fill his mind up with all that bullshit rhetoric that he reads in a fucking book? It only works to keep you going. Right? But you still have to deal with what your self-talk. And if that self-talk gets ugly enough, man, it gets pretty freaking ugly. And that's a lot of stuff to try to overcome. I believe in the chaos theory, 100%. It's like something bad has to happen for you to wake up and figure some shit out. So if there's a lesson that you needed to learn, it's going to come in a hard way. That's what I believe. Because if you look at all the greatest change in the world, it's happened off the back of something ridiculously fucked up happening, And that's where all the greatest change happens. That's where all the greatest shifts in economies happen, history, you name it. The way that we think, the way that we talk to each other, all of it has happened off the backs of something horrible happening. People dying, wars, you name it, man. So why would it be any different for the individual, But it's a hard pill to swallow. People don't want to hear that shit. People will pay all kinds of money to avoid it, But you can't avoid what you can't avoid,
Yeah.
So that's my theory. Maybe it's more of the negative one, and people don't want to hear it. But
I think if we look at it, it's kind of what you were saying earlier about most people lose anyway, right?
Yeah.
But then most people are searching for the opposite, where they want the hack, the motivational talk.
Sure.
So maybe there's a correlation between the two.
Sure.
You mentioned a few times now in terms of a bias, and you being a short seller, for example, and how important is it as a trader to understand your bias and understand what your forte may be, rather than, because especially in, let's say, the FX side or just generally, I see a lot of traders, they're trying to do both. They're trying to be a long trader and they're trying to be a short trader, all at the same time. Versus, the sense I'm getting from yourself is like, understand your forte, understand your strengths, and focus on that.
Yeah. I think it's one of the most important things, because especially now, it's so hard to focus on you and what you're good at, because every day you wake up and you look at this shit, you see somebody else doing better than you, using a strategy that you aren't currently using, or that for a fact it doesn't even work for you. So sometimes you'll go online and you'll go in your chat rooms and you'll see guys that are doing a different strategy than you that you already know you can't execute. You've already proven that you can't execute it, but you want that. So you continue doing that shit because of what you see, versus looking inside yourself and looking at yourself truly and being like, all right, this is what I'm good at. The rest of this shit, I'm just not good at. It's my path. It has nothing to do with anybody else's. But when you're eating shit and you need to make some gains, you're desperate for whatever, right? So you'll try to grab onto whatever you want to, or whatever looks good at that current moment. So that's the whole process. That's the whole mental process of this game. It's hours and hours and hours, days and days and days of fighting those thoughts, of fighting those desires, of fighting those those things that come up. And just telling yourself when you sit down at that computer every day, this is how I'm going to execute. This is what I know I'm good at. I don't give a flying fuck what everybody else is doing. This is what I'm going to do. But to get to that point where you have the confidence that it works and you yourself can execute that, that's the difficult part. That's the part that takes time to get to, and the acceptance of who you are. Most people don't want to accept it or even want to do the inner work to figure that stuff out because they're too busy looking at what everybody else is doing and what is working for everybody else, Sometimes, if my shit's not working, the best thing that I could do is just step the fuck off. But you can't, because this is what we do, right? You want to be at the screens every single day because the shot could be there. It could be the day, So being aware of yourself in this game is the most important thing that you could ever do for yourself. And by the way, traders are the only ones that achieve that level of awareness, right? Besides the yogis of the world and the gurus of the world, who, by the way, they sit in these ashrams for the whole day here trying to figure out who the hell they are and trying to analyze every single thought that comes in. And most thoughts that we have are complete bullshit. They're not real. They're just a thought that turns into a feeling. And now all of a sudden we have fear, we have greed, we have this, we have that. All of it is useless. It's a trash compactor up there, But most people will latch onto a thought and they'll believe these things about themselves. And that shit ain't true at all, And it takes a while to understand that. Traders, by the way, are the only ones that are faced with having to deal with this problem every single day. And if they don't solve that problem, they don't make money, And if you think of most other people in the world who have 9-to-5s and things like that, they've never been challenged like that to figure out who they are. They define themselves with what they have, their job, this and this and that. They've never had to truly go inside to figure out who they were. Trading is a journey about you. It is about you 100%. And it takes a while to figure all those things out.
In terms of that, like self-awareness, is there any, I know we talked about people having to experience and learn as they go along, but in terms of self-awareness, is there anything that you've done in your career to sort of be more self-aware, increase that self-awareness at all?
It happens every day. It's a day thing. It's an hourly thing. It's a thought thing. It's practice on what happens up here. So, for example, I'll give you an example. This morning I wake up. What are some of the thoughts that I had this morning? This morning I woke up and I had a thought of I should have sold out of a position that I had on Friday before it went south on me. I thought about my ex. What else? I thought about some of the other things that I had to do for the businesses that I have and how I'm slacking on a couple of these things. And then you start to feel bad about things. I woke up this morning, I was like, shit, man. Am I doing everything that I need to be doing here? And I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to wake up temporarily. And it was just and again, this could be seconds, this could be minutes, it could be 20 minutes. And then you go to social media, right? So I'll go pick up my phone to distract myself from all the shit that's going on in my head, right? So now I'm on social media and I'm scrolling. I'm looking at other girls. I'm looking at some messages that I may have. I'm looking at those motivation quotes, of course, that you see every single day. I'm analyzing those. And then at the same time, I'm still thinking about all the thoughts that I had before. And it's just a jumble of shit. And I don't want to wake up because now I feel crappy. And 30 minutes goes by, and you're like, well, what the hell? What the hell is going on? Finally, I'm like, all right, get your ass up, go brush your teeth, and go do some freaking push-ups. I get up, I brush my teeth, I floss, I go do some push-ups. Now all of a sudden, I feel like $1 million. I don't have any of those thoughts. And then it's like, all right, I got to go see Riz. What else do I got to do? I start setting things up. I start solving problems, and boom, we're in the day, and the day has started. So it's when you talk about self-awareness, it's a second-to-second thing. It's a mental analysis of all the shit that's going on up here, and it happens every single second. Mm-hmm. But you have to start it. Most people just have the self-talk and they never analyze it. Yeah. It'll just talk. So
just learning to observe your thoughts, and trying to keep track of them, not in a way like every single one because there's so many, but it's like you actually being able to recall what happened this morning, for example. While me. Now that you've said it, I can then say, oh, wait, actually, that's probably why I felt this way or that. Yeah. But otherwise, I would just be on autopilot.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah. You're the watcher. You want to be the watcher of all this shit up here. Because none of it makes... All of it is, a thought will come in, it'll make you feel like something, maybe you'll feel it for a second, and then if you're able to push it off and send it off to the heavens and wherever the hell it needs to go, and keep on doing what you need to do, that's the discipline, that's the mental discipline that we're talking about here. But it takes a while to get it, and you first have to understand why you want to be aware of it. And why you want to be aware of it is because one thought can turn into an emotion that controls your whole day, that controls your whole week, that controls your whole month. It's put people out of commission for their whole fucking lives, man.
Yeah.
To the point where you don't even have a life anymore. You're a slave to this. And once you become a slave to this, you're not even alive. Remember, it's a gift. This is insane here that we're doing this podcast. All this is insane here. That I lost money and made money. It's fucking nuts. So the true gift and the value of all of this is that we can do this. If you stop doing this, you're dead.
I think it's a very powerful thought because at the end of the day, I think for general life, it's very important to be self-aware. But then when we talk about trading, as you just sort of touched on there, one emotion can just lead on to the next. And in trading, unfortunately, because of the money that we're dealing with, that one thought can be catastrophic.
Because we attach our value to the money that we make or don't make. And it's one of the biggest problems. But I wouldn't even consider it a problem. It is what it is. We're in the game to make money. We're in the damn game to make money. Stop talking like we aren't in the game to make money. That's what you got into this shit for. You know, stop trying to be holier than thou and say, you know, you're not in it for the money, you're in it for freedom. Well, what the fuck gets you the freedom in the first place? It's the money, right? And then when you get that freedom, you know what you realize? You're still a slave to the markets and you don't have the fucking freedom that you set out to get. So it's all bullshit anyway that we try to sell ourselves, right? And these are all the thoughts and these are all the emotions that trap us into doing God knows what. You know, the amount of dumb mistakes that we'll all make. But again, what's dumb in reality if this life is meant for that? You know what I mean? So that's we could go on for a while on this.
I can imagine, but I'm sure like a lot of people, at the end of the day, trading psychology or trading mindset or just mindset as a whole, is such a powerful thing because it controls and dictates pretty much our whole lives, as you said.
Yeah.
But one thing you did touch on there, which I thought was very, very interesting actually, because this is something I've always toyed with in terms of passion, especially for trading.
Sure.
Because I've spoken to a lot of people on podcasts and off, and a lot of the time I've come across people and they're like, I'm passionate for money. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And I get it. As you said, like money is so important. That's why we get into trading. Yeah. But do you feel like you have to have a passion for the markets as well to really be a successful trader, or is that not really too important?
Yeah, I think you have to have a general desire for both. I don't think it's as necessary though. It's as high on the bar here. If you have a passion for money, you know, you can make things happen in a lot of different ways. You know, you can dissect different games and play a lot of different games to make that money. The problem is if money is your only desire, then it starts pushing you towards making decisions that are unhealthy, that are very unhealthy, and it starts attracting other consequences here in your life and with the people that you know and the people that you love. You'll start doing a lot of things that are morally, that don't sit right with yourself, that now you're going to have to pay for at some point in time. And, you know, for folks who believe in karma at all, or if they do or if they don't, it is what it is. But again, if you have to step on somebody to get more money, or you have to screw something over, or you have to, you know, if you got to do those things, that shit's going to come back on you and you're going to feel a certain way about it. Because remember, we are humans. We do have feelings. That's the beauty of being a human. We do have these emotions. And at some point, you're going to have to pay for those decisions that you made. So I do think having just the goal of money is not enough. And they'll realize it sooner or later anyway. Because even once you taste money, Dave Chappelle said it the best when he went on the Letterman show. He was like, what's the difference between $10 million and $50 million? And he was like, you know, say I got $10 million. I'm at a restaurant and there's a guy over there. He's eating the same meal as I am, but he's got $50 million. The difference in lifestyle, he said, is minuscule, you know? The only difference is, and this was his joke, the only difference is an astounding $40 million. And it was incredible because Chappelle he's an amazing comedian, but he's also kind of like a motivational speaker at the same time. Yeah. And he'll put shit so simply for you. But again, like once you hit these levels, for example, like I don't have to have 10, 20 million to have the friend circle that I have. They got all the shit that I want anyway. So I could just call them up and be like, yo, can I use your boat? Can I use your this? Or you're going to have access to it anyway. Do you really need one yourself? What are you trying to accomplish here? If you're trying to make $1 billion, if you're trying to make $100 million and things like that, these are doable. But what do you want it for? And what is the whole purpose? You got to figure out and align yourself out with that. But once you achieve a good amount of money, you're able to taste a lot of these things that everybody is. And once you taste it the first time, it's like, all right, what's next? There's always going to be a next thing. You're always going to be lacking purpose, so to speak. Even if you make another $1 million, the value of that $1 million is not it's not $1 million anymore. It might be the value of 100,000. It might be the value of freaking 10,000. So that's the issue with aligning yourself just with the money. You got to have some kind of a deeper purpose. And of course, if you love the markets and if you love the game of it, you'll go far, man, because you'll never want to do anything else anyway. It's like figuring out a jigsaw puzzle, like the most complicated jigsaw puzzle that ever has existed, and that has no winner, and that has no end to it whatsoever, and you can never beat this game 100% straight up. You said something interesting about the emotion stuff. I know some guys who are just automated traders, 100% automated traders, and they'll tell you straight up, like the trading psychology is complete bullshit, And you got to have some of these guys on your podcast. I would love to see them. I would love to see the back and forth because I'll get into it with these guys all the time. I had a hedge fund where I employed some ex-UBS and Goldman Sachs guys when I was in New York. Mm-hmm. And these guys were great coders. They coded a lot of strategies for the big banks, and they were making millions of dollars every single year. And when they had to go on themselves without the bank's capital, couldn't make a dime. And these are the best programmers in the fucking world, man. These are physics guys. Mm-hmm. These are engineers who have created, all kinds of stuff. Smartest people in the world. You still are your code. You still are your strategy. Your code has to be good enough to make some money. Somebody is out there looking for the same edge that you have. So if you're out there making money on whatever strategy you have, eventually that shit ain't gonna work anymore. It's just the science of what we do. Because somebody's gonna realize, hey, there's a lot of money being made over here. Mm-hmm. Let's scrape it here and let's figure this out. Let's change this, or there's too many people in the pool and it doesn't work anymore. And you have to switch it up. So even the best coders in the world, they still have to continue to write code. Mm-hmm. They still have to continue to check it. They're still at the same risk as a retail guy.
It's very interesting what you touched on there, because a lot of people, or at least on my side of the industry, there are a lot of strategies being promoted as these are the bank strategies, the institutional strategies. Sure. And
they throw that word around real easy now, man. That used to upset me. You'd see these 1 month in, 2 month in Forex traders, and they'll put on their accounts, we're institutional traders. Like, bitch, what the fuck told you? Who the fuck told you that you are an institutional trader? Where did you even get that word? Continue, my bad.
No, that's it. That was it. I was going to say, what are your thoughts on that? Because, I get it in terms of a marketing perspective, but it's also like a very dangerous play, especially as you were talking about in terms of like an edge. If you have an edge, eventually, by the sounds of it, that edge will end up expiring, essentially. Yep. And therefore you need to then adapt and learn or grow another edge or find another edge in the market.
Absolutely.
While when you think about this institutional strategies that are being promoted, that alludes to the fact that it will never change. Yeah. Because essentially the institutions won't change, right? That's how they trade. So
right.
Therefore, how dangerous of a mindset is that to a trader?
It's so dangerous. But again, if you're looking at what the purpose is behind it, the purpose is to sell a strategy. The purpose is not to utilize said strategy. The purpose is to sell that strategy as an institutional strategy or whatever. So banks, I'll put it to you simply here. Banks here, these are the smartest people in the world. And they have they have all the capital in the world behind them. So even if a trade is not working for them, they can starve you out of your trade because they got time and money on their balance sheet. They literally have it on their balance sheet. You and I, we don't have time, and we don't have a big enough bankroll, So those factors alone will push us out of any trade eventually, And that's what these guys have. And that bankroll that fucking continues and continues and continues. And they can do a lot of fancy things that we can't do. For example, when they want to come out and buy 3 million shares of friggin' some stock, whatever the stock it is, they don't just go in the market and buy 3 million fucking shares. If they did, everybody would know it, and they'd push the price of the stock up just by themselves. Because nobody's going to go in the market, open market and buy 3 million shares. So what do? They have execution algorithms designed by, again, the top engineers and the top freaking neuroscientists in the fucking world that'll sit there and calculate, okay, how much can we not impact the market by buying this 3 million shares? And they have all the data in the world to prove, okay, if we do it this way, maybe buy 100 shares every 10 minutes or something like that over a certain period of time. Or we go on the dark pool. Or, we use some other liquidity methods here that nobody else can, that people can't see us. Or we go into the options market. There's so many different ways that institutions can manage a trade and cut out risk that a retail guy would never, ever, ever be able to. For example, a retail guy who wants to buy, who wants to get exposure on Tesla or Nvidia or something like that and wants to cut down his risk, he doesn't even have the account to sell options against his main position. That way he can cut down the cost of his main position, start gathering some income here while that trade is slowly working, in his favor or not in his favor. They don't even have the cash to be able to do that. So how the fuck are you going to call yourself an institutional trader? How? Please explain that to me. Somebody in the comments when this shit comes out, please explain that to me. So again, institutions, they have access to games and people and connections that we don't have access to, and we'll never have access to.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
When it's explained, it's so logical, but then I think is it just the human brain that just allows the illogical thoughts and ideas and promotion of things to overtake us?
You know what they say, man. We complicate shit that shouldn't be that complicated, because we're human. Yeah. Because we're human. And we'll complicate even the most simplest things, like waking up in the morning or walking your dog or having a simple relationship with your wife or your spouse or your kids or whatever it is. We'll complicate the shit out of all of it because we want different things. We're not on the same page as far as who we are, and we can't communicate. We don't want to communicate. We lie, we cheat, we do all these kind of fucked up things to each other for our own benefit. And that feeds through in so many things that we do, including trading, man. Yeah,
definitely. And in terms of money, just to go back to money, for example, a lot of people struggle with getting used to the numbers as they start to hopefully progress through their journey.
Sure.
They start off with, let's say, a few thousand, maybe into tens of thousands. But once they start to really start kicking into the six figures, multiple six figures, the change in the risk amounts, the profit amounts, etc., is something they struggle with. Is there anything that throughout your journey that allowed you to sort of adjust to those numbers, or what was your sort of adjustment like?
Yeah, it's just like the awareness thing and how you constantly have to be aware of it. You constantly have to plan. You constantly have to strategize. So now, let's say you went from a 10 grand account to a couple 100,000, 300,000. Now your games are going to be different. Your P&L is going to be a little bit different. So you constantly have to reassess, okay, I achieved this, now what do I want? Okay, I achieved this, now what do I want? Because if you don't know and you don't put it out there, you're going to put that all up to risk. And now you're back where you started, And that's the toughest part of this whole game. So as you step up, you want to make sure that you don't freaking slide all the way back down, So one of the best things that I've ever done, of course, is just take the freaking P&L off the screen. It's probably one of the best things that you can do intraday while you're doing all this stuff. But constantly making that assessment. And again, you're not going to be 100%. None of you are going to be 100%. None of us are 100%. So sometimes, that big loss is coming around the corner. As soon as you make a couple 100,000, your losses are going to be bigger. It is what it is. And now your stomach has to get the pain tolerance. We were talking about the pain tolerance before. This is the only reason why we have so much of it, because as we're stair-stepping our way up, shit, man, we might fall back down 4 steps and then take another year to go back up 8, and that happens in a trader's life all the time. So constantly being aware of where you are and where you want to go is the most important part, because that'll help you align what you're doing intraday and, you know, over a couple of days to figure out, you know, where you're trying to go in the future. You know, for me, most of the time, like, I'm a home run trader. Like, I'll shoot heavy. You know, because I'm looking for certain spots where the whole market changes. Everybody's trapped on one side of the trade and they have to get out. And if they have to get out, market makers also who are selling the options, they're also in the same position. Everybody's basically on one side of the trade now after everybody got trapped and lost everything, you know? So you'll see a lot of that happening in the markets these days. And it takes a while to develop, right? Because you have to trap everybody on the wrong side. Once you do that, there's enough force that all you have to do is drop some catalyst somewhere, and that'll create that force on the other side. And that force will last a good amount of time. I want that. I want that, you know, once that starts happening, because that's much easier to read. The problem is how do you position yourself to get there in the first place, right? Because you can't lose your whole ass by the time it comes around and now you're not here. You know, that's a major issue. So I'll swing for the fences here when I see, you know, those things lining up. You know, so for me, my goals are completely different than when I started out. When I started out, it was like, all right, how do we make $100,000? How do we make $200,000? Once I did that, then it was like, okay, how do we shoot for the millions? Once I did that, then it's like, all right, we don't even know what we want anymore because we didn't even think we were going to be here in the first fucking place. So then you have to go through that whole period of figuring out what's the next step and all that. So it's constantly adapting, just being able to constantly adapt, being aware of where you are, and just listening to yourself, listening to the thoughts, you know, and that's it. Sometimes that takes time as well. But anytime I'm not aligned with where I'm trying to go, my trading is off completely because I'm shooting at things I shouldn't be shooting at. I'm doing things that I shouldn't be trading because there's no sort of plan, so to speak, and there's no real end purpose.
This is a very interesting thing that actually I was going to lead on to, which is that when you're starting out, especially, but people have this idea, and I had this idea. I'm not sure if you did, but I had this idea that once I reach X, whatever it could be, money, it could be assets, it could be a certain goal, whatever. Once I reach X, then I'll be happy. I would have arrived.
Bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. I'm gonna tell you why it's bullshit, right? Number one, you've been living that moment in your head for years before you actually got there. So your body and your brain already felt that years ago. It's actually felt that every single day because that's all you can think about every single day. Every single day, what do? You wake up and you're like, I want this, I want this, I want this, and I'm going to do everything to get it. That's what you think about. You think about that every day. So now when you get it, when you actually get it, you've already been there. So it's almost no relief. You're just like, all right, what the fuck do I do now? That's it. You know what I mean? Nobody really truly appreciates when it actually happens because there was so much sweat, blood, and tears that they've been mentally struggling with for years before they got there, you know? So if you're able to truly appreciate, like, hey, I arrived. This is amazing, you know? And now let's kind of, you know, back this up a little bit and figure out what's next. Usually what happens is that people get so, because they've been thinking about it for every single moment, waking moment of their lives, they think when they hit this number, everything's going to be fine. And then when it's not, then they start acting crazy. Because, you know, I mean, rightfully so, right? I mean, you spent every single waking moment, all your energy on this one moment. The moment happens, and you're just like, well, what the fuck? And all you're thinking about is what's next. That means your mind is already ready to struggle for 2 years or another however long for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's exhausting, man. It's exhausting.
It really is.
So that means that when you arrive, you're fucking exhausted. You're already exhausted. You know? You just want to chill. And now that you don't have the feeling, the joy that you thought was going to come with it, now that you don't have that, you're probably going to act like an asshole. You know? And that's what happens to a lot of people. It happened to me too, so I'm not here judging. I'm not holier than thou at all. All I'm saying is this shit happened to me hopefully, it's different for you, or, maybe you can figure something else out.
Definitely. In terms of perspective, a lot of people come into the markets and think, I'm going to master this shit in a year, 2 years, etc.
Yeah.
How important is it for traders to think on that bigger picture and that long term? And as I'm sure you'll probably agree, is that it's easy to come in, and we all could probably come into it thinking the same.
Yeah.
But like, how helpful is it to just think more longer term, bigger picture than
if
than
you're
that?
if you're able to think as a trader over 5 years or 10 years, the intraday shit you don't even care about, because if you're disciplined, again, it goes back to the reference to sports. If you're a tennis player, a basketball player, or whatever, like, I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna take my 500 shots every single day. If I make some, who gives a shit? If I hit them, who gives a shit? I'm gonna do the same thing tomorrow. I'm gonna do the same thing tomorrow. I'm gonna do the same thing tomorrow. That's the right attitude for anything in life. If you want to achieve anything in life, that is the right attitude. And again, we're so amazed by people that can do it because we can't fucking do it, right? The majority of people cannot do it. They can't wake up and do the same shit every day. Oh my God, it's boring. Oh my God, my girlfriend wants to do this. I got to make her happy. So, I'm not going to do what I need to do every single fucking day. And my bad to blame it on the women. I'm not blaming it on you. I'm not blaming it on you at all. You're beautiful. However, distractions here, distractions, this is what happens to most of us who are trying to achieve something. It could be any kind of distraction. So what ends up happening is we lose that discipline. We want things now. We want things a lot faster than what they should come at. Some of us hit those things, but if they come fast, they're going to go out right as fast. We've seen that in history repeat itself time over time, but we still continue to deny it because everybody, the new generation will keep coming along and gamble even harder than the last generation, in the hopes of getting in there. It is what it is. But if you can have the mentality of the 5-year, the 10-year kind of thing, you're untouchable. You're fucking untouchable. Because we're talking about a person who knows themselves. They know what strategy works for them. They're going to continue to execute. And even if they fuck up, it's fine. It's fine. Because they got a 5-year outlook on this. Over time, they're going to be fine. If you can adopt that mentality, that is the right mentality to have. Unfortunately, we're human beings. There's different things that influence our time frame. There's different things that influence the amount of money we have. There's different things that influence all kinds of stuff. So the lifestyle that you lead may influence you to drop off that path just like that. Anything could happen in your life that makes you drop off that path just like that. Think of how hard it is to keep a gym routine, man. You go to the gym for a week and then you go to Colombia. You come back, you're like, well, I'm asked out for about 2 months. You know what I mean? I'll make it back to the gym in about a couple of months, And then it's just that back and forth of it all that gets very fucking tiring. But that's what this is. If you want to achieve anything, that's what it looks like. So you better get your pain tolerance up, because that's all this shit is. It's just you doing something, you get knocked down, and you got to go back and do it again. Definitely. And you have to find a way to enjoy it. You have to find a way to enjoy it, because if you don't, now you're just tired. Now you're just tired and you don't want to do shit. And the easy way out, you already know what it is. You pull out that phone, you hit the Oreos, you start smoking weed, you start doing all this kind of stuff. Who gives a shit about any of this stuff? Because I'm just fucking tired. I need a vacation from my life. Motherfucker, you haven't done anything. I need a vacation. I just need a vacation, because you're just tired. And that's what it is. You have to find that joy in all of it. You have to. And it's tough. I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy. Sometimes you have it, and then sometimes you're off. So that's life.
I think that's what kind of we started with in terms of people wanting perfection all the time, and it's a dangerous mindset to have. Yeah, man. And earlier you mentioned in regards to we talked about people complicating things. How, in terms of your strategy and the traders that you've come across, how important is it to keep a simple sort of edge, a simple strategy within the markets? Yeah. Or is it okay to have a complex sort of viewpoint on the market?
I think the rule of thumb is keep it simple. And for me and my guys, everything is tape. Like, tape will tell you what shit's doing. Tape will tell you everything. The question is are you reading it unbiasedly? And that's where we complicate things. So that's where the complications start coming in, So you can come into the market and I can sit there and I can read tape. If I'm reading this tape without any bias whatsoever, I'm making money. Hand down, I'm making money. I can figure out over time where some stock is going and make some money. But if I come in saying this is going to do this today, or that is going to do this today, or this is going to do this today because I want it to happen and it's time to happen and blah, 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 and I come to the market already complicating a situation that doesn't need to be complicated, this is where things start to happen. And then it just is a spiral here kind of consequences once you layer on your bullshit onto a market that is just moving because of buyers and sellers. All you're there to do is to read that movement. If you can get a read on it, make a fucking trade. If you can't get a read on it, don't make a trade. It sounds simple. That's why people will always, that's another marketing tool too. You'll see people saying, okay, trading is simple. Trading is simple, you know? And when you put it out like that, it's simple, sure. But why is everybody losing money then? You know what I mean? Because we complicate it because of what we want, because of the losses that we want to make back, because of what we believe should happen. You know, this is how we overcomplicate things. For me and for my guys, everything is purely tape. Are there people buying this stock? If so, can we get a price? If so, when are we going to sell it? And that's it. That's literally it. And that's always what it should be. But is it like that most of the time? No, because we want more out of a trade. You know, we should have had more size, let's say. We didn't get enough size, so now we're pissed off at ourselves. So now we will buy more when we shouldn't buy more, and it's time to get out. You know, so we'll do all those stupid human errors here and complicate things because of what we want, you know? And that's a major problem for most retail traders.
Yeah. And in terms of risk and size, actually, you know, in the FX side in particular, a lot of people really emphasize 1% risk.
Yeah.
Know, or like fixed risk.
Yeah.
While I've been speaking to a lot of obviously options traders and just generally a lot of more successful traders, and they talk about dynamic risk. They talk about, you know, yes, you know, especially in the beginning, have maybe a general rule of thumb, you know, actually building up your tolerance, etc., and building up your skill set and your edge. But the best traders know when to size up, and they don't just keep it fixed.
When you play blackjack, if you're trying to make some money playing blackjack, or you're trying to make some money playing poker, what money have you ever seen made where somebody doesn't take a big chance somewhere, you know, because they got the cards or the odds are in their favor? This ceases to become a game now. Like, the game doesn't even make sense from a numbers perspective. Forex is different because you get 500 to 1 fucking leverage. You get 200 to 1 leverage. So you can shoot around 1% and you can still make a bunch of money here off that 1% trade because there's so much leverage behind it anyway. You know, options and equities are obviously a little bit different. And 100%, the best traders are concentrated traders. Concentrated meaning when it's time for them to take a shot, when that setup comes that they've been waiting for, damn it, you better get in there. You better get up in there, you know? And if you don't here, you've spent all this time working and waiting on this trade here. You didn't make enough for it to cover back the losses that you took to find the fucking trade to begin with, and to cover up all the mental capital that you spent to get there in the first place. Come on, we're in this game for that. That's why we're in this game, you know? So that, to me, it comes with the game. Otherwise, it ceases to become a game. You're just sitting there gambling. You know what I mean? And you're just not going to get anywhere. I mean, if you sit on a blackjack table with $1,000 and bet the minimum, what's the point? What is the point? I mean, if the point is to just have a good time, sure, go have a good time. But who's trading to have a good time? I don't know one trader that is there to have a good time. People go to the casino and sit on the slot machine to have a good time. Okay, fine. What trader do you know that is there to have a good time? I'm just happy to be here type trader and attitude. There's not one fucking trader I know. If that's you, stop fucking trading. You know what I mean? So at some point, you got to get concentrated. Yeah. You know, you got to find out where the sweet spot is, and when that time comes, that's your moment. Mm-hmm. That's your fucking moment. You got to go for it. You have to go for it. You know?
And you've had those moments in your career.
Hell yeah, man. Those moments come like once a month, man. Mm-hmm. Once a month they come. Even sometimes even more. And to get the confidence to be able to concentrate a position like that in the face of losses, let's say, in the face of everything that has happened to you in the past, it's an even more difficult scenario here too. Because you can't manifest that same blind faith that you could when you were 25 or 26. It's different now. You're 40. You got a family. You got the kids. You got this. You got that. It's a different game now. You know. So it's tougher to manifest that same concentrated position type of attitude as time goes on. You know. So these are all the things that mentally you have to deal with. And after sitting there thinking about all this shit, who would want to do this? Who really would want to do this? It's a tough game. It's a tough game for anybody. So how do you make it simpler? You know, have you done any automation at all?
No.
You've never done any automation? I feel for Forex, it's easier because the platforms are all API-centric and then you can build whatever the hell you want to kind of thing. In the equities and options, it's a little bit different. There's a lot of compliance. They don't want you trading a lot of certain products.
I think more so is because you see all these guys like fast pass bots for prop firms and HFTs, and then generally people who have promoted bots in the past, they're just always blown up in the end. So it's always just put me off thinking, there's no longevity there. So it's more so maybe been put off by the less ethical people in the industry.
Man, the funded simulation stuff is very... People think you can game it. I know you're out there right now. You guys think you can game it, right? Because you think you can pit one side against the other, and you think you can game a system that remember who's behind this shit. You need to understand who you're up against. These are the same guys that created the whole game to begin with before, right? And now it's all math. It's all pure math, right? So think of actuaries who create the math behind insurance products and things like that. Smartest minds in the world, because again, how do we ensure that if we sell these policies to everybody, we still make some money? It's still a fucking business. You still got to make some money here. You guys think you can crack those systems with your bots, with your this, with your that, but guess what? Eventually here, their whole system is to figure out where you guys are finding edge and to close that window on you, right? So now it becomes a game, it becomes an arm race, right? It was just like ticket scalping. What happened in ticket scalping and what happened with so many other systems like sneakers and shit like that is that you would have a bot that would essentially break a website and get into the website faster than anybody else, buy up all the inventory, and then you're able to go online and sell it. Now, if I'm the ticket master of the world, or if I'm the easy of the world, you know, obviously word is going to come to me, and I don't want all my product to go to these freaking bots. I don't want my customers to get screwed and have to pay 6 times of value for my shit. Of course, so I'm going to come in here and say something about it. I raise up to the primary market, which is the Ticketmaster or the Adidas or whatever, and I tell them, hey, this is fucked up. You guys got to figure out what's going on, or we're going to move here. So now they find you guys. They find the bots, and they shut them down. They shut them down. Right now on the funded simulation, they'll allow all the bots to work on the phase 1 and the phase 2. So they don't even give a shit. You do whatever the hell you want on the phase 1, phase 2. Once it comes to real money, yo, you're done. You're done. Those bots are done. You know, and the ones that you're buying online for $200 or $300, you still got to know how to tweak them. You still got to know how to do shit to them. That's the whole game right now. And it's easier to just sell the bots, just like it is to sell the simulation, than to actually accomplish anything by actually fucking trading. So guess what? At the end of the day, you still have to become a trader at some point, and you still have to know what the hell it is you're doing at some point. So to your point about the bots and everything, that's gotten really ugly. I'm talking about automation that can kind of save you from yourself. That's what I've been working on. And I'm talking about how can we tell that Riz is about to lose 10% of his account, 20% of his account? How can we tell before it's happening or as it's happening so that we can implement some automation that can save himself from himself? Because we know over time, he's not going to make the right decision when it matters 100% of the time. Sometimes he will, sometimes he won't. But how do we save himself from some of those catastrophe moments? How do we save himself from some of those moments where he turns a big winner into a loser? How do we get real dynamic about our own emotions, tracking our own emotions from a data perspective so that we can build the right automation to help you save your ass, all right? So if I can give you automation right now that'll save you 30% of your losses over the year, what are you going to tell me? You're going to tell me no? You know what I'm saying?
Of course not, no. How do you think that would work in terms of, would it be just tracking the sort of decisions being made?
A lot of data. A lot of data.
You're basically creating a brain.
Exactly. So we don't want to take the decision of what you want to do out of the equation. But we want to take the decision where it becomes very emotional for you. And that always happens with oversizing. If you get too much size, it always happens with overtrading. If you're trying to make back losses, it always happens with turning big winners into losers because you want more. It always happens at the most emotional parts of our decision making. How can we get enough data that we can see it coming as it's happening, and then implement the right automation to save you from yourself at those moments in time where it's the most important? And over time, if I save 30% of my losses, do you know what that would look like, Riz?
I can imagine it's insane.
You know what that would look like? It would literally be tens of millions of dollars.
Wow.
You know? So if I can elongate your career, if I can make your career as a trader longer just by you having that,
No-brainer.
it's a no-brainer. You know? So those are the things that I'm thinking about doing and trying to now implement, because this is my world. This is where I live. This is, you know, these are the types of conversations I have all the time with my own guys. And again, these are problems that are well-known problems that nobody really has solutions for. I mean, what is your solution, right? Let's say, what is the retail solution? What is the retail trader's solution right now to their emotions right now? What is their solution? It's only be better.
Yeah.
Right? It's only be better, and we're talking about 1%, 2%, 3%. I mean, if you can get 3% better, what does that look like on your bottom line at the end of the year? I would imagine it's a decent amount of money, probably. But how do you do that, right? And then when you ask somebody how do they do that, well, they'll say, I don't know, read some books or work on my mental. How the fuck do you work on your mental, right? Who knows how to do that? What does that look like for people? What are you doing? Are you meditating now in the morning? But even if you meditate in the morning, by 11 o'clock, you're pissed off at the world because you just, you know?
Yeah.
And now all that meditation went through the fucking window here, you know? So you call it whatever the hell you want to call it, you're still at risk for yourself here, you know? And then the other option is you learn how to code, but what's the likelihood of you learning how to code, right? Because it's not just, they make that shit look easy too. Okay, yeah, all we got to do is go on ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT, hey, write me some code to blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's there, it's getting there. I'm not saying that's not an option. It is an option. It does take a lot of time, work, discipline to just sit there and try to figure it out. Plus, you got to test the shit out. They make error in the codes all the time, so you got to go back to ChatGPT, say, hey, where'd you fuck this up, blah, blah, blah. You know, you still got a lot of things to do. Or you could teach yourself how to code. Now, if you teach yourself how to code, just because you read a book about Python, it doesn't fucking mean you can build a piece of software here that actually works. It's like art. Good coders, they're artists, man, with their code. That shit works in a lot of different environments, works under a lot of different APIs, works with different software. You know, that's a whole nother thing. Or you could pay another programmer. Now, what's the cost to pay another programmer? It's a fucking ass load of money. And then you want to store all that data, you want to save all that data, you want to track all that data. All that shit costs a lot of money. So it's very cost prohibitive if you want to go down that road. So what solution do we really have? And hence why you have a world that is saying, hey, trading is easy. This is a great place. This is a great way to make some side income. You can have the life you want. All that shit is being sold to you for fucking $20, for $20, $10. You think something that can be sold to you for $10 or $100 is going to change your life like that? Get the fuck out of here, man. But that's what you're going on there and you're seeing every single day. Because now the value of that education, everybody has it. Everybody has education. Everybody has it. You can go online on YouTube right now and get it for free. Get it for free. You can get all of it for free, you know? Or you can pay $20 for a fucking newsletter and this and that. You don't even know what to pay for. There's so much shit out there, you know? So if I was a new guy trying to come into this game, I wouldn't even know what to do. And my advice always to the newer guys is, get a fucking seat at the table and trade. That's the only way that you'll figure this shit out, you know? Because if you crawl down the rabbit hole of paying somebody else, including myself, because I do have education as well, if you crawl down that rabbit hole, it never ends. It doesn't end. You're constantly going to want to pay for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's what marketing is, and that's what sales is. And we're at the peak of it in freaking trading right now. And sometimes I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's so hard to be in this industry and be, you know, and even when you put out some losses, the hate that you get, the bullshit that you get from people that just, you know, that just want to, you know, kick a man when he's down kind of thing. It tells you a lot about us as human beings too.
100%.
especially how we act when nobody's watching and nobody can see us.
Yeah.
You know,
Behind that wall.
behind that wall,
That screen.
and there's a lot of things that'll get exposed from a lot of these industries. We're already slowly starting to see it, but you know, it's dangerous. It's tough. It's a tough kind of situation right there for newer traders coming in. You know, so again, I would say, hey, make the money in a, you know, go get a day job, make some cash, start small, and work up, you know, and figure out the game that way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a multiple part question, if you will, and because it just kind of ties in all together. But, you know, going through your tweets and, you know, yes, you have an education now, but what was the choice of just being so open throughout your career? So it's not like you suddenly went, oh, I want to be more open now.
Yeah.
You've done it. Like, I've seen tweets from 2010, 2011, 2013.
Yeah.
And not only that, but also during that time, those sort of years, there was like a theme going on where it was like, I'm gunning for that 7-figure trade.
Yeah.
Gunning for that 7-figure. And there were moments where you would tweet and say, could have had it today.
Yep.
You know, but I didn't size in.
Yep.
You know, such an easy 7-figure trade for those who did the right things.
Bingo.
And it was just incredible to see that, you know, and I didn't get to see a tweet of like if it happened or not. I imagine it did.
Yep.
But like, what was those processes like? And what was the choice to be so open and just real when you could easily not be? You know, you could easily decide to go down the other route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question, Riz, man. That is an amazing question. I think I started out in that mode. And okay, I'll put it to you this way. I started out not showing anything and nobody knew anything about me. And then I wanted to like write. I started writing articles. It was just satire because at the time, remember, this is 2010. Watching CNBC and reading Yahoo Finance was like a horrible experience. Like it was just the driest conversations. It was just the driest content. And there was no memes hadn't even hit the street yet. Like GIFs hadn't even hit the street yet. You know, now it's just complimentary. You get a complimentary meme or a GIF that explains whatever the hell you said in a tweet right after you put the tweet out there. Before it wasn't like that, you know? And I always had this kind of satire mindset anyway. So I would like write articles about, you know, lucci upgrades and downgrades or something like that. And I would be like, buy Chipotle stock. I've never seen so many white people standing outside a fake ass Mexican restaurant in my entire fucking life. And now all of a sudden, the franchise started with 10 locations and now it's over 2,000. You know what I mean? The stock IPO'd at $50. It hit $3,000 the other day. It hit 3,000. I think it hit 3,500 or something like that the other day. And that IPO'd in 2000, I don't know, 2006, maybe? You know what I mean? And then like Lululemon was just starting out. I was like, buy these things because these girls' asses look incredible here in these yoga pants, man. You get your girl one of these yoga pants here. You know, I would just do stuff like that. And that started creating a lot of traction. And that's where everything started to happen on Twitter, on StockTwits and everything. So then I kind of became this sort of personality anyway, and people enjoyed the financial comedy because there was something comedic going on all the time. Even now, you know, you look at what happens in finance right now, but you look at FTX. I mean, FTX, you could make movies for the rest of, for the next 100 years on FTX about the characters that were involved in this, Sam, the girlfriend, all the prosecutors and everything, like all the shit that has happened between the time they got busted, even before, all the celebrities that got involved, everybody that was on the commercials saying, are you in? Remember Tom Brady, and all these commercials, they would be like, yo, are you in? Are you in? They'd be making trades on fucking FTX US. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, this guy goes up, belly up. I still have $500,000 sitting in FTX.com that I can't fucking get out, you know? Because it was, you know what? You want to know why I got in there? I shorted GameStop in FTX because they had a product, they had a futures product based in BTC. Basically thin air, complete thin air, but they gave you all this leverage just like they would on a Forex account. I couldn't do that on my regular account. I had like a $2 million account. If I wanted 50,000 shares short of GME, I didn't have the capital to put up for 50,000 shares, and it was at $32 or $33. So I go to FTX. I'm like, you're going to give me 50 to 1 leverage. So I'm just going to put 100 racks in this account, or 50,000 or whatever the hell I put in. I shorted as much shares of GME as I could. I was like, even if I lose this 50 grand, I don't give a shit. It goes to 27, 26 or something like that. November 11th, the shit started closing down. And I'm like, no way. No way. I'm up like 200 on the position. And I'm like, no way. I couldn't even sell out because the market maker stopped providing a market. So I couldn't even cover the position. Next day, shit's done. No withdrawals. You're asked out. End of December, stock trades $14, and there's $1.2 million in that account. Again, comedy. It's just gold in finance every single day. So that's kind of how I started out. And then I always kind of became this personality, and I think I got attached to that personality probably. And then I started to see an industry where other people were starting to share their stuff as well. Yeah. But then, of course, I noticed even back then, nobody shared their losses. Not one person shared their losses. So that was even back then, you know? And you would think a decade later, the shit's different. You would think, you know? It ain't no different.
It really is.
It ain't no different, you know? So you bring up a great point. It's the point of if the attachment to showing the P&L is too much so that, let's say I stopped and wasn't this personality and just traded. Would I trade better? You know? Would I trade significantly better? These are the questions. And I think that's an amazing question that I haven't been able to answer. And I think in the bottom of my heart somewhere, the answer is, yeah, man, just go ghosts. Forget about all this shit, you know? And just trade. That's it. You don't need all this stuff.
You said there's an element of the community there, like the
100%.
Like, because trading's a very lonely thing by yourself.
100%. I've always been the fighter for that type of community. I've even created like a space down in Puerto Rico where I'm at right now. It's called Trade Space, and people can just come in, rent a desk. It's like a co-working space for traders. And again, we're right next to the beach. I'm playing beach tennis all the time. People will come see me from all over the fucking world there, man.
I bet.
And they'll have friends from all over the world. So what this business has done for me has afforded me the ability to do stuff like this, you know? So it's not nothing. It's not worth nothing. But the question is, what do you really want, you know? And from you and the outside looking in at me, it was like, yo, does he really want to make money trading, or does he want to be this guy, you know, this other guy? Can he do both? Is it possible to do both? And these are the questions that we have about each other. In reality, you can only answer that question about yourself. I can only answer this question about myself. But since we're here talking to y'all, you guys are getting the answers from us too, man. So I don't have the 100% answer for that, but I do think about that all the time.
I can imagine.
I do think about that all the time.
But I think you're doing an incredible thing, and I think you know, like, we need that transparency in the industry. I think it's very helpful. I think it's especially now more than ever, as you said, like and the rise of social media and the amount of perfection traders there seems to be. Yeah, it's imperfect to see an imperfect trader.
Yeah, man.
And I think it's something that is needed and necessary. And hopefully we get to do this again, because I'm sure we can go for hours and hours and hours.
I'm sure. It's going to depend on what country you land in.
I'm going to come
next,
to you.
man.
I'm going to come to PR, man.
You're going to come to PR?
Yeah.
Dude, you guys got to come. Puerto Rico is a beautiful place, man.
Yeah, I've heard.
It is a beautiful place.
But it's been an absolute pleasure, and I really appreciate you coming down and making this happen as well.
Me too, man.
And everyone at home, the links for Lucci will be or Sang Lucci, should I say, will be in the description below. And drop a comment with your biggest takeaway from this episode. I know there was a lot, and that's what we love to do. But yeah, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway from this episode. Make sure you hit subscribe. There'll be other episodes here on screen. But until next time, everyone, take care.